What is up, guys? Welcome, welcome, welcome. If I'm not mistaken, it is Thursday, and it is a just a midday pop-up live. Just to kind of chat, talk about knives, see what's going on with you guys, see how everybody's doing. See if anybody wants to hang out for a few minutes, maybe about an hour. I hope everybody is having a fantastic day. I'd come up with a couple of thoughts that I thought would be cool, and I'm sure it'll happen. I just wonder when it'll happen. Um, for some testing, an opportunity for some pretty cool somebody that does testing to do some cool testing. But yeah, it's an awesome week. What's up, Gonzo? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, Rody7420. Get over here to the chat. We got Gonzo in the house. We got Rody7420 in the house. A big Shady was going on with us. We got Blind Woo Fury. What's up? What's up? Everybody hanging out, talking knives, talking lives. What's up, Josh? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Good to see you. Happy Thursday. Happy midday, kind of just wacky talk about knives, talk about lives. I was going to have something educational for these midday pop-ups, and I think the way I'm going to do that is I will do the disassemblies live, the mods live, the sharpenings live on Tuesdays at 1. And then what's up, Cody? Good to see you, buddy. And then on Thursdays, it'll just kind of be a little pop-up where we just kind of talk about stuff, talk about some knives that I may have recently gotten in, like this little Tops 3-pointer. Derek, for real, what's up, buddy? But just kind of hang out and really see what you guys got going on. I've seen some of y'all in chats. What's up, Chef Rocky? Good to see you, sucker. What is up? What is up? We got Aries EDC making knives, popping in to say hi. What is up, buddy? He's always hard at work. Good to see you, Scott. We did miss you, Derek, for real. How have you been, my friend? How have you been? I miss all you guys. And when you don't see me chatting in lives, I'm usually lurking in lives doing something else in the background. But I listen to them pretty much all the time. There's certain I listen to all the time. Derek, I hope you've been all right, buddy. I hope you just been, internet got turned off. Dude, sometimes unplugging from the internet, as much as we like our community and our knives, is a good thing. I'm glad you're back, buddy. Rocky's day off today. That's a mad win. Neil McKenzie, hello, channel member. Good to see you, brother. I hope you're having a good Thursday. Closing in on the weekend. Stoked about that. Even though my life's so weird right now, it's kind of, day to day's kind of day to day. But yeah, tomorrow we'll do Friday Night Flicks, just like normal. And then Saturday, lives all day long, pretty much. And then Sunday, you've got Zach, you've got Shane, you've got MPG EDC. You got a lot of different choices out there. Ouchie EDC, how are you, buddy? Work and lurk. I try to keep them clean. I can't promise. That's why I don't have my parental advisory sticker up on my tile, because I feel like my midday lives will just be me, and I can absolutely be PG, probably G-rated. I don't know if there is a G-rated anymore. According to YouTube, nothing's G-rated. You can't talk about certain things, but we'll definitely keep it clean. Go Isabella, my brother from another mother. Good to see you, buddy. And I'm glad to see you, Blind Woo. Welcome in. Chef Rocky, but working that would be different for me, because I've had mine where I would silence it like at 2, because I was always a late nighter. But since I haven't been working, which has been a while, my schedule has flipped. I usually sleep most of the day, and then I get up and I'm up all night. But that's just when it's quiet and when my brain's the most focused to get stuff done. It's crazy, guys. I mean, I'm sure, and luckily I only have one neighbor to the left of me, and then I live across the street from this huge cemetery, so they don't mind. But I know my neighbors wonder what I'm doing when they see me doing some of my super late night streams, or they see me over here talking to myself, recording a knife video at 4 o'clock in the morning. Dragoon, good morning, my friend. Good morning. Yeah, and the name of these little lives, maybe I shouldn't name them at all. I should just have them pop up like at 1 o'clock on Tuesday and 10:15 on Thursday. Because midday, I guess 1 o'clock and 10:15 kind of are not really midday. You know, when you think about it, not that I'm OCD, but I kind of am because I've got all kinds of little mental lovelies that I deal with. But that's one. And yeah, maybe I'll just do the no thumbnail, just go live thing on Tuesday mornings, 10:15. I'll put it on the page. I think I did put it on my YouTube page, but I'm not sure if I did or not. I need to do a better job of that. One of my New Year's resolution, which I've done better this year than last year. I'm much on a better pace, but I'm still not where I need to be. I need to be 100% comment acknowledging, and I still do not go to my comment section very often. Social media, because of some of my phobias, not really phobias, but I guess you'd call them some of my overwhelmed kind of weirdness things that I feel about. It's hard for me to post on Instagram while working on YouTube. My Instagram posts, I might post on there 3 times a week when I used to post there all the time. But anytime I just feel overwhelmed by email, not channel email, life email, and just I've got to get, and that's one of my resolutions, because I appreciate and urge and encourage you guys to comment, because I learn everything I learn in the community about knives, or everything I've learned about knives since I got back into knives, which is about 3.5 years ago, has been from you guys. So comment sections are great. I've just got to do a better job of getting in there and answering questions, asking questions if there's a question that I don't know the answer to, and just do a better job of at least acknowledging the comment. So I want you guys to know that that is on the agenda. I said this last year too, and I fell short. So I'm going to hold myself to it this time. Somehow, some way, I'm going to make it happen. I can do it a lot easier on my computer than I can on my phone in terms of keeping up with that. And I just got to set a twice a day schedule where I spend 30 minutes behind the computer and just do that. So to me, it's a huge John fail. What's up, B Shady? Good to see you guys. Cheers. I'm sipping on a Starbucks mocha because they were out of white chocolate. One of their energy coffees, as you will, as it were, if you would. But yeah, I'm sure some of you guys were here Tuesday. It was an interesting night, kind of an odd night, because I'd gotten the call from Shane asking me if I'd seen the video from SHOT Show that Eric had done, bless her, from Spyderco. And I told him I didn't, and he said I ought to watch it. I did, and it started the conversation that we really talked about Tuesday night, and it was the fact that, you know, Eric was asked about the future of Crucible. Great video. I might have dropped the link in case anybody hadn't seen it, but I know y'all have. But he's basically talking to David, is it Anderson from Knife Center? And they're talking about Crucible. If Crucible goes away, what are the, you know, chances of somebody buying it? What, you know, and they were just talking about that. And then Eric just real nonchalantly kind of let the cat out of the bag that, because he, you know, he goes to China every, I'm sure, several times a year because they have a manufacturing partnership over there. But he was talking about how they're an emerging economy still, even though they've been emerging for a long time. Mimo, what's up? Good to see you, buddy. And long story short, he just said, you know, so China has great foundries over there, state of the art, and you know they're now making copies of Magna Cut, S90V, all these other metals. And my understanding is from some of the conversations is the actual recipes for the steels cannot be trademarked or they're formulas, right? But the names, like calling them S90V, is even though we know that that doesn't matter to China. And I'm carrying today one of my Chinese M390 knives that I really like. But what I was thinking is, Derek, yeah, let me find it. What I was thinking is, I think how cool it would be now that this information's out there, because it ends with Eric saying, I don't see myself buying MagnaCut from China or buying MagnaCut from China for our production, but I can never say never because you never know where the world will be in 5 years. So it was one of these conversations that, the things going on with Crucible were, I don't know how the business was run. I don't know how the plant was kept up with. I don't know all that stuff. I just know that here's the video, guys, and y'all watch it and just listen to it from him. But it was kind of, I found it fascinating, because he even said, their foundries are like futuristic compared to our foundries, right? So they can buy knives from us and they can put them on spectrometers and they can test and recreate the metallurgy. They've got metallurgists probably as effective as our metallurgists that work in China. So it's the only thing that I think is unfortunate, but I don't think, because y'all know what I think about how China's culture is different. So I don't see it as them being, I don't see them as the enemy that everybody else does, right? However, I think if they had come out with I think they just want to react to what the market wants. So when they create an S90V analog or whatever and sell it as S90V, they think that they're just putting it out to the market, is in my opinion. This is just my opinion. Instead of calling it something like 1312C or something that is just like S90V, in terms of edge retention, corrosion resistance, toughness, et cetera, et cetera. But I think what would be cool now that this has come out, and I'm sure the results would be all over the board. I'm not sure that we know that some of the heat treats have been low on certain things that have come from overseas, but I'm convinced that their knife making sector is so advanced that they're going to get better and better and better. But I think it'd be neat to see somebody that knows how to do cut tests, that knows how to do maybe hardness tests, started getting some S45 from Hinderer, some S45 from Kaiser, and testing them. Get some M390 from Bestech and get some M390 from somewhere that's this made with, well, that's a bowler steel. So let's just talk about crucible steels. S90V, maybe get a DLT Medford with S90V or some other knife, and then get an imported, like a Riot or something like that, Jack Wolf. I think it'd be interesting because he said that steel recipe patents don't last forever. That's right. That's right. At Trademark Center said they weren't hurried to buy Chinese MagnaCut, but he would never say never. And the only reason I think, Ron, and tell me if I'm wrong, channel member, and thanks for being here, but the only reason I think he said never say never, because that's when he bounced back to David, and David said, yeah, we don't know where the global economy will be or where the global production will be in 5 years. Well, and that's another thing. Microtech is one that, according to Shane, who kind of was talking about this years ago, does all their legit stuff. So Bowler is, where are they? Swiss? Let me find out where Bowler is. Hold on. But M398 or M390 MK is a steel that they make specifically for them that Bowler, Uberlohm, and that's a legit steel. So I think that I don't know how it performs, so to speak. I don't know what the tweak is per se, but I think it's a legit steel. I think it's something that they developed with the. Let me go MK enter. I want to see who it is by. All right. So, Microtown, let's see, on January 14th, 2023 is the first I'd heard about it. We've been working with Bowler. I'm just looking at an article, Microtech, Ray Hills, blah, blah, blah. The difference between M390MK and M390 was just carbon content. Higher carbon, just a little bit higher. Here's an article about M390 and M398, but anything that, so when I look at, so we know that Uberlone Bowler, the company that makes those steels, right, is legit. They're a huge foundry that sells metal steel to a lot of people, and we knew Crucible was a legit company. Now, the question was, and I had to issue an apology, have inclusions in the steel if they didn't done just right. Exactly. I think that's something. Let me hear what he wants. I agree, Ron, and I'm not backing Shane's position. I'm just saying, or I'm not rubber stamping what Shane says. I'm saying Shane was telling me on a live like 2 months ago this thing, and I was arguing with Shane and Googled that we did ship steel to China, and Shane threw it back to me in a very logical way. Why would China pay for our steel, transport it across the ocean to make our knife and send it back to us when they could make the steel there for so much less? And they don't have any repercussion for doing that as long as the steel performs. And Shane even said, because he was on the live Tuesday night, if MagnaCut starts coming from China and it has good heat treats and it passes all the tests that MagnaCut was designed for, he's going to leave it alone. You know, the bottom line is, and I think why David was saying we don't know where we'll be in 5 years is, who knows if we'll be able to buy steel in the USA, if we'll still be making steel. You know, that's another thing that Eric Glazer said. He says we need more in this country than farmers, doctors, and lawyers. You know, if we're not building things, we're not using steels just in time. Welcome, buddy. Good to see you. Then that people are going to develop it in other places, right? I just think it would be interesting, because if you took what used to happen when I first got here, and I'm sure it's been happening before I got into the knife community, I think it was Love Them Knives who had a buddy who would test the steel their knife was made out of. So they'd come in, an M390 knife from China, he'd test it, it'd be D2 or it'd be something else. And so that was really kind of eye-opening for me, and it also helped change what they were doing overseas, kind of like product control, right? In a way. But I haven't seen him do that in a long time. But I think if you had that equipment and you bought a S90V knife or S45 MagnaCut, a MagnaCut knife from the USA, and you bought a MagnaCut knife, dang, Ross, member for 22 months, dude, thank you so much. You know, I appreciate you. And I'm sorry, guys, but I've got to do my little video thank you because I don't have my kazoo. Hey, brother, I appreciate your support. Glad you got a lunch break, buddy. Yeah, glad you got a lunch break. But yeah, so I would think if you got MagnaCut knife from China and you got a MagnaCut knife from Spartan and you tested them on a spectrometer, they should read the same. So they should have, because that's the way that you would make, I would think that you would reverse engineer a steel for its properties if they're shooting for that. You know, my thought is, I look at I think people used to look at China as cheap goods, and I know they still do produce some cheap goods, like junky goods, but I think their manufacturing has gone through the roof, right? They're doing some state of the art stuff. They've invested in that infrastructure. So I think it'd be interesting to grab, not me, because I don't know what I'm talking about most of the time, much less do I know how to test this stuff, but to get a couple of different choices. Um, Pretty much everything. I think Eric didn't say this, but what my bet would be that they don't buy much steel for use in the knife industry from us. Well, I've got some MagnaCut and from a much smaller boutique companies, that my thought is they probably thought they were just getting MagnaCut. I don't think any of if I was going to design a knife and I was going to work with Best Tech, and I spec'd it the way I wanted it, and Best Tech said, "Here, we can do it for this." About this, if you go out of no MagnaCut, that's not ever shipped to China. That means that all our knives are made with Chinese steel, all of it. No, what I'm saying, I'm not making that. All I'm saying is Laren Thomas, and this was something else that was brought up, had said at Blade Show last year that MagnaCut is not being shipped abroad. MagnaCut, was developed for the knife industry and is made in smaller batches. They don't use it for other stuff. What's up, Mayor Salt? So MagnaCut on a Hinderer, or MagnaCut, not a Hinderer, that's not a good example, on a Spartan or on a Medford, is bought from Niagara Steel, who's the distributor for Crucible. It's made in America. Now, no steel, no knife steel has all American properties in it. We don't have vanadium in this country. We don't mine it. We can't. We have to import the core materials to make these powder metallurgy steels. So if China can make MagnaCut and it's good, that's great. It'd be interesting to get it tested. But yeah, I think China, they buy steel from us in huge lots, primarily recycled steel that they then convert. For example, I didn't know this until I started doing some research. They bought most of the damage of the World Trade Center. Mimo, you never know. I wouldn't think so, but I would think if they're, and I don't, this is just based on that little bit of conversation that I shared on that video that's out there on Knife Center's channel. I think that they've got the technology to do what they want to do. And I think the only reason they would is if customers like us demanded it. They're going to get by with what is best for them. Oh, man. Oh, Binks. See, that's what I think too, dang. I think they should, but China, I don't think they're culturally, they don't think of it bad like that. I think they're thinking that by calling it that, it doesn't confuse the American consumer, right? If they called it something like Magna Set and they said it was like MagnaCut, same properties, that would cloudy the waters. Yeah, and Ron, think about, and I don't get into conspiracy theories, and we don't talk about that stuff here, but same with like cell phones, the minerals that you need for cell phones or for lithium ion batteries, the things that we're talking about converting to, we don't have, from what I understand, the raw minerals here to make a battery, a lithium ion battery. So, I think, and that's why I think Eric said I can't rule out 5 years, because who knows who's going to be all I want, and my only questionable practice that I didn't always agree with was I didn't think it was right when Love Them Knives was testing knives that were supposed to be M390, some of which I bought, and they were testing at a different steel. So as long as there's transparency, like, yeah, this is a analog, or this is Magna Cut from China, because maybe, who's to say if that China, they probably wouldn't need to because they don't have any reason, but their company wouldn't want to buy the names for those steels. I don't know how all that works. I just found it fascinating because I'd been wrong for so long, and I'd argued openly on streams with Shane about, no, I don't think that's the case. Because I know that several designers that I personally know will buy that carbon and ship it to them. But not large enough quantities. That's true. I mean, we might have traces of it. Again, this is coming from a guy who doesn't watch a lot of news and read stuff that I try to cross check it. And I always identify myself as an idiot who likes knives, but I will research stuff. I just think it's interesting. I don't think it's bad. I don't have that, because I've always, if y'all have heard me, anytime that conversation comes up, I think, and if I look at my knife collection, I have more imported knives than I have USA made knives. I love them, right? I'm a big fan of Tommy Guy. That would be a name. That is the internet meme of the morning for sure. But no, my whole thing is, I just think I think it'll be interesting if anybody talks about it, if anyone addresses it. I would not have even known about it had I not been directed to that video. The only reason I talked about it Tuesday night is because I owed Shane and everybody that's heard me say, no, we make Magna Cut, we send it to China, and China's using it because the American consumers demanding it in their knives, right? That's why they're starting to offer it. Same with S45. So I was dead wrong, right? And I should have thought about it, because if you think about it logistically, how does it make sense? Because look at the cost of what you can get a very well-made Chinese knife made for. I'm not talking about what I can buy it for. This knife, I'm not going to even guess, but I bet you it was under $200 for them to make this knife, because I got it for, I'm sure it was well under that. So shipping a lot of materials to make said knife that they're buying at our price. I just don't, I should have. And that was one of the things that the people, Shed Knives, what is going on? That is Mr. Jack from Shed Knives. Good to see you, buddy. We're just talking about the SHOT Show, Eric Glesser sit down interview where he kind of just let the cat out of the bag about China, making analogs of our steels and calling them, or crucible steels, because the actual, let's just share that. Let's just go to that little cut where he makes that comment where it sounds like everybody knows. Oh. So we're going to take just a second to divert. I will be out of the chat for just a second. I hope you guys can see this. I think this is right about where he says it, for those of you who didn't see, when they talk about it, I guess I should say.
But on that point, I got to ask you, like, one of the sort of talking points that I've heard and people are mentioning is the the portion of Crucible's business or in any steel company's business of what they do being knife related is so small, do we have enough clout to keep these grades going at other foundries, do you think?
I think that it depends who buys it, how they want to make it,
Mm-hmm.
what the profits are on a lot of that. But fortunately for the knife industry is we get to ride on the coattails of.
Hold on, guys. Let me get.
There are always going to be these evolutions and these pushes and steals. Can we find them?
Even if it happens to be a very small part of what they do.
Because we love it. We have high performance steels. I think with
Hold on,
every
guys.
field is this stuff made.
Mm-hmm.
Out of what foundry, at what cost, and its performance and everything that goes along with it. Steel is the foundry of production.
Mm-hmm.
We can't be a nation of farmers and doctors and lawyers, and we have to make things.
Yeah.
And without making steel, if we're buying all of our steel from overseas, it's going to be a lot harder to compete. And so, I think I'm really hoping that somebody takes on the challenge of continuing to bring these grades out. I know Niagara is involved. I have to give hats off to Niagara. They are the distributor of Crucible steels.
Mm-hmm.
They are the distributor of so many other steels. Such a big role in everybody's success.
Taking on what's left of Crucible now, like I sure hope the folks are going to be taken care of.
M390
equivalent. M390 equivalent.
Make a Spyderco Chinese Magna Cut, not in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
They worked very hard to develop that steel, and Niagara and Crucible kept it for America and the Western Hemisphere, if you will. And though the Chinese may be making a copy, if you will, would I make some? Likely not. I never say never to anything, though. I just hate to close books completely.
Well, I mean, the world 5 years from now could look very different than right.
So that was basically the news, and there's more to it. I urge you guys. I put the link in earlier. I'll put it back in there for anybody who came in later. It's just interesting. I mean, again, like I say, I learned everything from you guys in the community, and then reading and doing some. And I haven't gone and triple checked Eric's information. I just know that he is very much been in the knife business his whole life, and they have manufacturing partners in China for Bird, Japan, Taiwan, USA, and they know their steels, right? I think we can say without a doubt that Spyderco does steel, and they know how to make things that cut. And to me, it doesn't matter where it comes from. I would just be interested to see where it goes, right? Does China, because they have additional capabilities, do they try to make it where it's a 63, 64 for people? I don't know. I just don't know if anybody's ever tested it thinking, well, this is different. This Magna Cut's probably different than this. Now we know that 5 makers can get Magna Cut, and it's all over the board. Thanks, Mersal. That'll get you so much bad information. That would get you so much bad information. Unless I was dropping drama details, and I've kind of sworn myself off this year from talking about my infatuation with the internet drama channels, so I won't go there. But yeah, I haven't seen anything really pop up. I haven't been watching a lot of content, but I would have thought that people would have talked about it more, or maybe they will, and I haven't seen everything. I'm sure there's content out there on there. If any of you guys have seen anybody talk about it, or talk about that they're going to have a couple of knives tested, or it's just interesting to me, because what's interesting to me is I was under the impression that no, we were selling Mimo. let's go. But I was thinking that Magna Cut was from us, and I was telling that to everyone, and I was kind of on that side of the equation. It's Magna Cut, it's Magna Cut. And the way that, not that Eric said it, but the way he said it, like everybody knew about it, like it was kind of common knowledge. Hey, Kathleen Smith. Hey, Ed, channel members both. How are you guys? Welcome. But I just found it very interesting, because I'd never considered that to be a possibility, because I can remember when we were talking about They're using K390. They're using now S90V. This is great. And I've never noticed anything. Mimo, it's funny. I had it as a joke on the soundboard, and Shane called me, and it was upsetting him. I was making him feel, and it's just kind of cheesy because I've always said, I make fun of him because that guy. If you don't know, we're talking about the Steel Toe Morning Show. If you're ever looking for something cringeworthy, Google the Steel Toe, like a boot, morning show. And you can see clips that people put out because there's shows that are dedicated to the cringe of that guy's show. But no, I don't go there. But I do think that this is just kind of fascinating. I don't think me, I've always said I could probably get by on 440C for everything I cut, right? I open Amazon packages, I cut open cat food bags, I'll cut paracord sometimes. I just don't, but I'm a enthusiast. I'm a collector. So one of the things I collect, like on my chickadees, is blade steels. I like to have different blade steels. I like to sharpen knives, right? I think that would be a great testing medium, or if you wanted to call it control, if somebody bought, and I should do it. I've got this knife right here. I love it. It's one of my favorite knives. And it says right there in the choil, you can't read it. It says MagnaCut. So I could do a sharpening test and see how it felt under the stone, but I wouldn't have the scientific, where if Kyle Coonley did it, my favorite steel to sharpen shed, I've never, I have a TS prof and I sharpen a lot for a hobbyist, but as little as I cut, the only thing I have not sharpened of my collection is S110. I've sharpened M390 a lot. I've sharpened 20CV a lot. I've sharpened a lot of S90V. S90V takes a while, can take a while. But I sharpen for therapy. It's kind of weird. If I'm reprofiling, 14C would be what I would probably have the most fun with. But yeah, for me, sharpening is just sweet. Would be a good one and done MagnaCut knife. Depends on what you want to cut just in time. It's not as much to me, and this is I'm an idiot who talks about knives, who likes knives, but I don't know all the science. There's so much that has to do with blade geometry, the shape of the blade, the angle of the blade. If you're going to be cutting wood and kind of chopping some stuff, that would be different than if you were going to be, using it to maintain an edge for a longer time, or if you were going to use it to cut through some things that maybe you should cut through, you needed a tougher steel. If I was going to do a one and done MagnaCut knife, they run the gamut of big knives to much smaller, daintier knives. Where'd that one go? I think if you're looking for a small, USA made, everyday carry knife, I think the TRM Bulldog is a great value at under $300 for MagnaCut G10, all made in the US. I think that Benchmade doesn't do a lot of MagnaCut. Spyderco doesn't do a lot of MagnaCut or any MagnaCut. If I wanted a USA MagnaCut, AWB, American Blade Works, McNeese is a little bit more expensive. Probably American Blade Works or TRM would be the lowest point of entry. Kershaw, but Kershaw is one of those, like the live wire, but Kershaw is one What's going on? Ron, welcome, welcome. Kaiser 3V smolt. I love that little smolt. I've got one of my favorite fixed blade, EDC fixed blades, which are the knives I like the most, is the Kaiser Mini Hurricane. I love that knife. I've got it in 3V and I've got it in Ultim handle. But depending on the size of knife, what I was going to say is, you know, Kershaw, I would think they're buying USA MagnaCut. They're not a USA owned company. They're owned by Japan, if I'm not mistaken. They're owned by KAI Industry, I think. But I would think that they're using a legit MagnaCut. So, so much of it is what you're going to use the knife for, right? And what properties of the steel are most important to you? You know, is it that you don't want it to rust? That you don't? I'm that guy who I don't need a knife with the greatest edge retention ever, just because I don't cut a lot of stuff except the basic packages, things like that. And I'll cut down and break down some cardboard, but I don't do cut tests. I'll do stuff like this where I'll grab a piece of paper and do some therapeutic cutting. But I don't do a lot of hard use with my knives just because I'm not in the situation that I get too much. When I go camping, I like to take something a little bigger, a little heavier. I like my S35VN that is on my 8010. That steel's performed amazingly for me. I put that knife, I don't have it over here, but I put it through hell. I've got this knife right here. That have not put through as much, but this is my Cold Steel 4Max, which is a huge knife, S35VN. Now mine's been hollow ground by Satu Dave, but if I was going to be out chopping, I would much rather have a big knife with a softer steel. And I like sharpening S35. I'm that guy who I like S30V. You know, I'm not. I like having and collecting different steels, but do I cut enough to notice huge performance differences? I really don't. Now I can tell when I'm sharpening knives that some burrs are more flaky, that they're different, you know, but I haven't sharpened the knife enough or sharpened enough knives to feel like I know what is what. I can tell there's difference, but you know, I can't always tell which means which one's better. And then again, I don't go out and cut hundreds of feet of sisal rope or cut a lot of feet of cardboard. I just think it'd be really interesting for somebody to do that, you know, to take some of these knives and steels, because I think we would find, my personal opinion, is that some of these Chinese analogs would perform as well, if in not case, some cases better, because there's so many variables. You have a heat treat, you have blade geometry, the style of the blade, the way it's ground, is going to give you more or less. I love AEBEL, Ron. I've got a lot of fixed blades in AEBL. Matter of fact, I don't think I have one right here. But like, here's a good example. Hey, West B Space Ghost channel member, my brother from another mother. This is a USA made knife, fixed blade. This is an Axial Knives Alpine, and this is in MagnaCut. And it was made, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not going to say, I thought it was Texas, but I think somebody corrected me on that. But this is USA MagnaCut. I have no problem sharpening it. It sharpens great. It performs great. And I haven't seen, you know, and I do have, like I was saying, I've got my EMP EDC relative in MagnaCut. And who makes LMAX? Do y'all know, is Bowler LMAX? Because this is a weird little beast right here. Kung Wu's heat treats are very good. A lot of people give me grief because I'm a Kung Wu fanboy. I just have a lot of Kung Wu knives, but I think every Kung Wu I've experienced has been a good knife. Have I gone out and put them through their paces? I haven't as much as I should have. But it's just because I don't cut as much. Probably because I cut my finger off. I mean, that's one thing that in the first year and a half, 2 years of playing with knives, even before I had a channel, I would cut myself, guys, all the time. Little cuts. Going through my Demco 80-20.5. Bowler makes LMAX. And LMAX is supposed to be very stain resistant, right? Or see, I'm curious about Best Tech, who is really not a factory. Best Tech is a logistical company. I'd be interested to see somebody look at some of these steels that are coming over, because I think it's interesting. Like I say, it wouldn't surprise me if some of them are improved upon. Yeah, Mersal, I seen yesterday. I'm in a little group on Instagram, and I seen this thing about the U.S. Postal Service, and then somebody said, one of the people in the group said, "Yeah, we ship our stuff UPS," and the person came back and said, "It doesn't matter. It's UPS and stuff too." So, yeah, it doesn't look like. Again, I don't plug into a lot of that, but the reason I'd asked about the Bowler LMAX is I had on my little nimble T, I had some corrosion around my pivot. I mean, it was just surface. I was able to get it off with my rust eraser, but it made me think that, because I don't keep my knives wet, it made me wonder what it is. And it's the only one of my, and I've gotten all of my EMP knives from EMP EDC. This is the only one that doesn't have the LMAX stamped on it. I need to take it apart again. Maybe that's what I'll do Tuesday. Bowler makes Vanex Super Clean as well. That is one of my favorites. As a matter of fact, my Padre is Vanex, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, Bowler makes good steels. And Crucible made the steels that I think the part of that, if y'all watch that video, Eric talks about his dad being one of the first production maker to approach Crucible. Some custom knife makers had been using some of their steels, but he's the one that went with them to do the S30V and some other stuff. That's a gorgeous knife. That is a gorgeous knife. I've got the Nip 2 and that Glow Matter carbon fiber, or the Nip Slip and the Glow carbon fiber, and just love that stuff. I think that's such a beautiful. Yeah, that's what I thought too, that it was pretty stainless. So I'm curious. Again, I'm not. John and Jamie Rusk are some of my favorite knife designer people. I love those two humans. I just thought it was odd, and I'm sure that they have no idea if it's something different or if it's not. But I was just surprised that that in my case, I saw that Vanex Vancron PM60. Don't hear much. Vanex is getting more popular. Yeah, it's just, and to me, again, this is coming from an English psychology major who's not a metallurgist, but I would think that metallurgy, to some extent, is like, and I'm also not a good cook. It's kind of like following a recipe, right? If you know what your parts are and you know how to mix it and heat it, and you have the time to practice it, I would think that you could make the same performing. I would think you could make it almost indistinguishable from each other, because the science has come so far. And if I'm not mistaken, powder metallurgy is pretty much a basic starts as dust type product. And that's true, Mersalt. And I don't think I'm not up in arms about it. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Well, that's my brain without thinking. I don't like miss. I don't think the goal of Best Tech, Riot, whoever, is to mislead. I think they are looking at it as we're going to make something that performs like what they want, and since they call it this, we're going to call it this too. As crazy as my perception of that is, I just think that that's why they do it. And like I say, if we're not able, if the foundries, and I don't know, I need to talk to my brother Dark Gravity because he works in the steel industry, not in a foundry, but but anyway, if for some reason the quality of steel that we were making was not as good as the quality of steel coming out of China, let's say, would we be clamoring to buy that better steel? Objectively, we would think that we would, but there's other factors at play too, right? So my only thought would be, it would be neat, it would be interesting to have somebody test a bunch of different knives, from both places. Test your Magna Cuts, test your S90Vs, your 20CVs, because that's the thing that I probably have the most of, that I have had no problems out of any of my steels, full disclosure. But has been using 20CV for the last 2 years, pretty much exclusively. So I think it'd be interesting, and I've got 20CV and WE knives, and I've got 20CV from TRM that I know came from Niagara, and this came from WE at China. So these are both 20CV knives. I just wonder how close. Yeah, Outpost 76. Mimo, has he done that already? I need to do that right now, because Shane always tells me, have you seen his video? And I don't know if I never do see his video. So let me make sure. Outcast. Out. 76. I'm subscribed. Yeah, I need to watch more of that content, Mersal. I've been subscribed, but since I don't click on a lot of the maintenance, sharpening type of content, I probably don't get it a lot in my feed. I'm too busy watching Steel Toe Morning Show. But no, I think that's I just think it's inevitable that we've always changed. Things change, they always change, right? That's something we can count on, is change. I'm not mad at it. I just think it's interesting. The thing that I find the interesting part about it is that Eric acted like it was second nature, and maybe it is second nature. Maybe I was the only person that didn't know. That he made it. He was just talking about it nonchalantly, like, yeah, Chinese is making a version of Magna Cut, and I just never thought that. And I don't think the people that I was arguing with in my chat who said that they were making it were under the impression that it was open knowledge, right? This was the reason they knew that, is it had come from, hey, Ron Dobbins, dude, I'm doing fine. I'm living the dream by the drop. But it started 2 years ago when a friend of mine had actually heard Larry and Thomas talking to a maker about the Magna Cut and its distribution patterns, right? And then there's other information. So nobody was saying, well, this person said. So I'm under the impression that dude, I get it, man. I'm still trying to get back in the workforce, but the TKL agents are some of the comfortable. If you like a thin handled knife, I don't think I have one close, but they're great knives. I'm a big fan, and that's 80 CRV2, or you can get Nitro V, and those knives perform. I beat the hell out of my TKL. Well, true, Mersalt, but common sense for people that are smart, like you and Kyle Kuhn Lee, and people that know shit, it's not as it should make sense. Like Shane told me, he goes, if you just think about it logically, why would they buy, ship, then machine, send back instead of just doing it one way? And I guess I'm an idealist, right? But yeah, not a bad thing. It's just it's interesting to me, and I just wonder. Nah, I don't know. I don't know how I would feel. I don't need to. I don't even know. I would be asking questions if I was a knife designer maker. I'd be curious. I'd want to know, what's the deal, and I'd kind of want. I don't think it's going to hurt any sales. I don't think there's any necessarily inferiority of that product. You would almost think if they are, according to Eric, operating out of more state of the art facilities, that they should be able to do very good stuff. Um, we've seen what they do in fit and finish, and it's amazing. Um, and no, this is not pro here or there. It's just kind of food for thought stuff. And I'd like to see people that test that stuff as a part of their content. Blind Woo Furry, thank you, buddy. Fury, for becoming a new member of Javon's Knife Flicks. We have special Saturday morning streams that are very short. They're just to say thank you to you guys. I appreciate you, buddy. I appreciate you big time. So, again, I'll get on here and say things that are misinterpreted, and I always say, "So what do we learn?" And one of the things I don't take a side necessarily. I prefer, and lately in my collecting, I started out, I was buying all kinds of knives. I was buying mostly exclusively value knives, so all imported. Then I moved up. I've always continued through today, present time. I will buy from Titanic, which is made in China, and I will buy from Hinder, who's made in America. Mimo gifted one, dude. Thank you so much. Giving you a big man hug because I don't have a kazoo or an doing it. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you, man. But so I'm not at all taking a side. It's just to me, I find it interesting, right? Because I have in a different sector worked in business, right? I worked for what you would call a large corporation. I've seen how things go right and how things go wrong. And I just wonder, when you're running businesses of that size, how much knowledge do you have, right? So did anybody, and Mersal, it seems like, unless he's just trolling me, that a lot of people might have just known, that stuff was going to be Magna Cut, Chinese made Magna Cut, not USA made Magna Cut. That is a fact, Jack. And that's another subject, but that's what I learned from my buddy Dark Gravity, because I said I just can't get premium knives, and he's like, Javon, you're spending so much money that you're not realizing on these budget knives. Quit buying budget knives for a couple of weeks, and then you'll have as much money as you would have spent on those. You can turn around and buy the knife that you want. And resale value, I don't think the Rosie's any better. I don't think there's any better than a Rosie. There's some that are right up there with it, but Rosies are definitely holding their value. Yeah, and that's the whole thing, right? I think everybody, and one of the things that is the forefront of my belief is I think everybody should be able to buy anything they want because it's their decision. I think we should all have the most information to make those decisions. But yeah, I love stuff based on its looks, based on its use, based on what I saw that made me want it. Because I think for a lot of us, not for everybody, but for me, knives are kind of like I'm an addict who's recovered right now or in recovery, so to speak. But my knife addiction is kind of similar to the way my other addiction was. I'll buy things I don't necessarily need, because I don't need more than a couple of knives if I was going to be a knife guy. But I just got kind of a addiction to buying them. But I think if it's made in China, I don't have a problem with that. I don't. I just think transparency is good. I think that you know if you're able to bring a knife to market at a much lower value, I don't have a problem and never have with somebody selling something for what the market will bear. What I mean by that is I've been in a business that was woodworking related where we made very high end bathroom cabinets, but where net cost shouldn't determine what your retail price is. Now, it should always be more or you'll go out of business. But if the market's willing to pay for something that you've done that's valuable to them, I don't have a problem with what some people consider to be excessive profit, unless it's on something like a commodity that people need to live. When you're talking about discretionary products, yeah, the Lamia is the one I just love. But and those knives you can get your money back for. A lot of the American made knives. Now, we're in, I think, according to some things I've seen from other makers. I saw a video the other day that Greg Medford was doing where he talked about the industry's been down for the last 2 years, for whatever reason. The USA made knives. And I think it's because probably economy driven, right? Um, but things are cyclical. Um, and I think the bottom line, I would love to see, and this is something we talked about Tuesday night. I don't know what it would cost for Niagara or a conglomerate of knife makers and people to buy those steels. What is up? Said Stevie. Good to see you, brother. Just doing a little midday short live. Um, I was talking about how I thought that there'd have been more content that had come up, and I would love to see somebody test like my Magna Cut EMP EDC against my TRM Magna Cut. Or I'm surprised nobody's. I haven't heard anybody talking about Eric's epiphany where he just kind of talked about letting the cat out of the bag like everybody knew. What's up, brown sugar? Good to see you. Hey, and the thing about getting clean is it's not guaranteed. It's a one day at a time thing. And anybody can do it. Never ever give up hope. I'm not ever going to say it's easy, but I'm going to say if somebody is weak and as beta as me can kick and survive, you can too. Cause I am a pussy. Um, and it was hardcore, but never give up. If you're an addict, and I am, never give up trying to quit. There'll come a time that it'll happen. And if you're not able to, be careful. It's scary out there. One day at a time. Yeah, looking at it long term, and I'm that guy that I know I'm very flawed. I could slip tomorrow. Don't think I will, but I'm not putting it out of my reach. I know my brain tries to tease me and has teased me into doing other things because I'm a unique in my sobriety journey in that way too. There's not much I do that's really by the book, so to speak. But no, I just thought that was interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing. And I'm check out Outpost 76 a little more, and need to watch some of his videos so he'll show up more on my feed. But Kershaw Shuffle, I see you test tons of stuff. I want to see somebody just, and maybe it was me. Maybe I was the only one that didn't know. Don't quit the drugs that helped you quit drugs. And this is the truth. This is the truth. But I did have to, because I went through different stages of kicking different types of substances it was complicated. If it grows out of the ground and you don't have to do much to it, I'm not opposed to it. That's kind of my thing. And if it's coffee, which is a drug, I'm not opposed to it. But it's absolutely, Stevie, and it's a one day at a time thing, because you can be doing great one day and next day you just, it's good to have people to talk to, and it's good. I think that because I'll be honest, 10 years ago, I did not see a day or foresee a day that I lived without what I was addicted to. I'd kind of thought that it was going to be a lifetime thing, didn't know how that was going to turn out, and then had a situation that wasn't. It was just an epiphany that it was no longer sustainable, and I was living a huge lie because my family didn't know about it. So I don't know, because my hardest kick was the opiates, and then I drank for another 4 months before I went to AA, and that's when I kind of kicked everything out except for if it grows out of the ground or out of shit. I don't have a problem with it, because I feel like that's God food. No, you don't declare victory. I never would declare victory. I'm an addict, right? I'm just not active in my addiction. And some people would say I am. My sponsor tells me you kind of are active in your addiction. By his perception, he's right. However, when I turned 52, 53, other people's opinion of me don't matter. I know that I'm in a much, much better place. Mimo, that'll be the best thing. What's weird for me, and I guess it's because I like nicotine so much. Have you tried Zens? Are you just wanting to get off nicotine altogether? Because I like the nicotine salt. I hear it's not good for you. I'm sure the Zen's probably not either. It is, and relapse is part of recovery. So I've known a lot of people to relapse, and you get up like falling off a horse and you try again. There's no shame in the game. And people who don't get it, shame on them. Because one of the things that I would not do is go back and change anything. I learned so much from all my fucked up experiences. I'm sorry for not putting the parental advisory sticker up there, because I thought I wasn't going to cuss. Josh, they are. But the good news is they can be. I did it without rehab. I did it by weaning from about 13 to 14 a day, 10s to 2, then went cold when I'd gotten down. And I was sick for 40 days where I felt like total shit. And then I didn't sleep through the night for 90 because I had restless leg syndrome. But each day after about the first 2 weeks are just hell. Congratulations, Neil. And, it's out there. I could have, if I was able to quit at 46, I should have been able to quit at 26, but I didn't, so I think the bottom line is it's got to be an independent decision. It's hell, dude. That is hell. because those are $1 a mig, right? I was paying at the time because I had 2 people that were friends that both were in pain management, but they did not use their medicine. They sold it, and I was buying 10s Narcons for $7 a piece, and I was eating the equivalent of a Hinderer with a titanium scale every 2 days. So every 2 days, I was eating a Hinderer worth of medication, and my family didn't know about it. And I worked through all of it. I was what you would call a nicotine has been a bitch, but the beautiful thing now, Rhodey, is nicotine, I don't think is the most dangerous part of a cigarette. I think with the Zen pouches, I mean, that's just nicotine replacement. I was on for a long time. I was on the Nicorette, the gum, but that just got to be too expensive. What I found that I really enjoy, and I'm on the 25 milligrams of the salt nicotine on a vape, but it's all hard. You know, I would imagine trying to stop coffee would be hard, and trying to change just basic patterns of behavior. They say you have to do something, what, 21 days for it to become a habit. Um, the bottom line is, I know when I first realized that I was no longer using, I was needing, that I was actually physically addicted to something, I might have had, I didn't have a lot more joy after that from the intake of said substances. It was just, it became real to me that I had to depend on them to go to work, to play with my daughter, to be quote unquote normal to my ex-wife. It was my normal state, right? And it was freaking a nightmare. So I know other addicts deal with the same thought of, I wish this would go away, but I just can't. There's no way. I'm too far in. And you're not. You're not. You're not too far in to quit. There is always hope. Unfortunately, human nature is we've got to find our independent bottoms. Everybody's got their own bottom. Some people have hard bottoms. Boom. You know, some people hit the bottom and keep digging. I did that for a while. But it's just, don't give up hope. Don't give up hope, and know that there are always people out there. That the greatest thing that I could give advice to, and I hate to even say it because I found one group in Huntsville. I've gone to AA meetings all around the city, and it's not because alcohol was what was most destructive to me. It was because you get the same principles in AA that you would in Narcotics Anonymous. The difference is in Narcotics Anonymous, you meet a lot more connections who can help you get back on drugs. Where AA, if you can find a good AA chapter, if you decide to go through sobriety, what's good about it is to realize, for me, the epiphany was we had a very small group, 9 to 12 people would come, and you'd have one of the most successful car dealers in North Alabama, who they recently sold out. You'd have somebody that was homeless. You'd have somebody that was there because of a court order. You'd have different people with different stories. But what you realize is you're not alone. It's a struggle that everybody struggles with. It's absolutely legit. It can be food. It can be Burka bags. It can be Nike tennis shoes. It can be, the human condition is a strange thing. And I can tell you why addiction is such a big problem, because drugs fucking work. They feel great. They are sometimes the warmest, coziest blanket you can wrap yourself in, but it doesn't stay that way. It's just, it becomes tough. And I can remember like it was yesterday, the dread that I'd feel when I'd wake up, because I'd wake up, I would have to take a couple of 2 10s, lay back, just lay there till I could get up. because I was just dependent. But there's hope because I did feel like shit, but it passed. And again, I didn't get off alcohol for another 4 months. And that was just at the, I guess you would call it the urging of my marriage counselor. He just suggested that I go to a meeting and see what I thought. And when I went, it was just transformative to me because I found the right group of people and learned that I thought I was like a fucked up individual, which I was. And I was, eating copious amounts of things that should have killed me, which I was. But I realized there were people that did just as much, if more, and they did it in all walks of life. And it was just part of the life hike, you know. A lot of the people were there. I was there. And the reason that I ever got into any type of drug was because I liked them. It was never that I was prescribed meds by a doctor. Well, I was when I was 15. That's when I understood how well opiates work. But I never had a surgery, got addicted, and then had to go fulfill my addiction, which would be horrible. I know people my mom's age who've gone through that. Mine was all, I want to take this to feel better or feel different, right? So I was asking for it, so to speak. I don't have any, it was all free choice, free will. My heart aches for people who, just follow their doctor's advice and don't have the will, or they have a predisposition to that addiction. And some people hate those meds, and that's a gift. I mean, that's a gift. Drugs are bad, okay? That's what we learned today. We learned 2 things today. We learned that somebody needs to test these knives from, like, my lovely M390 Knoll Knives Voodoo, and maybe test it against Giant Mouse M390. We know the heat treat's probably going to be better on the one from China, but I think it's interesting. I'd like to see more people talk about it. I'm curious what people think about it. Again, I just think it's interesting. I don't think it's good, bad, or indifferent. Test it out for me, Gonzo. I got you. Again, I've cut with both of them. I've sharpened this knife. I know I've sharpened M390 on my Giant Mouses. It's just, I would like to see somebody put them under, some, and again, it gets back to me not being a steel snob, but knowing that there's more than just HRC that determines how much rope something will cut, blade geometry, amongst other things. But guys, everybody have a great day, a great rest of the week. I keep these short just to jump in and say, hey, and see what's up, and tell you guys, look out for the guy to your left, look out for the guy to your right, look out for each other, go forward with love in your heart, choose debate over hate. That's what we need now more than anything, is people having big boy, big girl conversations and realizing that we're all spinning on this ball together. And man, am I dizzy. Peace.